Quer soar mais natural em inglês? No vídeo de hoje, você vai aprender 200 formas poderosas de expressar sua opinião, concordar com elegância ou discordar com confiança, tudo com traduções em português para te ajudar. Seja numa conversa casual ou numa discussão mais séria, essas frases vão te dar as palavras certas para se expressar como um nativo. Bora turbinar seu inglês de vez.
I think you're right.
Acho que você está certo.
I think you're right.
I think you're right. I totally agree with you.
Concordo totalmente com você.
I totally agree with you.
I totally agree with you. That's a good point.
Esse é bom ponto.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. I see what you mean.
Entendo o que você quer dizer.
I see what you mean.
I see what you mean. You're absolutely right.
Você está absolutamente certo.
You're absolutely right.
You're absolutely right. I feel the same way.
Eu sinto mesmo.
I feel the same way.
I feel the same way. I'm not sure about that.
Não tenho certeza sobre isso.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure about that. I disagree with that.
Eu discordo disso.
I disagree with that.
I disagree with that. That's just my opinion.
Essa é só a minha opinião.
That's just my opinion.
That's just my opinion. It seems that way to me.
Parece assim para mim.
It seems that way to me.
It seems that way to me. I believe you're mistaken.
Acredito que você está enganado.
I believe you're mistaken.
I believe you're mistaken. From my perspective.
Do meu ponto de vista.
From my perspective.
From my perspective. You're entitled to your opinion.
Você tem direito à sua opinião.
You're entitled to your opinion.
You're entitled to your opinion. I have a different view.
Tenho uma visão diferente.
I have a different view.
I have a different view. That makes sense.
Isso faz sentido.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. I can't argue with that.
Não posso discutir isso.
I can't argue with that.
I can't argue with that. I completely disagree.
Discordo completamente.
I completely disagree.
I completely disagree. That's how I see it.
É assim que eu vejo.
That's how I see it.
That's how I see it. You could be right.
Você pode estar certo.
You could be right.
You could be right. I don't think so.
Acho que não.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I agree to some extent.
Concordo até certo ponto.
I agree to some extent.
I agree to some extent. That's not how I see it.
Não é assim que eu vejo.
That's not how I see it.
That's not how I see it. I respect your opinion.
Respeito sua opinião.
I respect your opinion.
I respect your opinion. I see it differently.
Eu vejo de forma diferente.
I see it differently.
I see it differently. In my honest opinion.
Na minha opinião sincera.
In my honest opinion.
In my honest opinion. I understand your point.
Entendo seu ponto.
I understand your point.
I understand your point. That's a fair opinion.
Essa é uma opinião justa.
That's a fair opinion.
That's a fair opinion. I'm not convinced.
Não estou convencido.
I'm not convinced.
I'm not convinced. Let's agree to disagree.
Vamos concordar em discordar.
Let's agree to disagree.
Let's agree to disagree. That's exactly how I feel.
É exatamente como eu me sinto.
That's exactly how I feel.
That's exactly how I feel. I can't agree with that.
Não posso concordar com isso.
I can't agree with that.
I can't agree with that. That's a valid point.
Esse é um ponto válido.
That's a valid point.
That's a valid point. I'm with you on that.
Estou com você nisso.
I'm with you on that.
I'm with you on that. I think otherwise.
Eu penso diferente.
I think otherwise.
I think otherwise. I guess we see it differently.
Acho que vemos de forma diferente.
I guess we see it differently.
I guess we see it differently. You might be right.
Você pode estar certo.
You might be right.
You might be right. I don't see it that way.
Não vejo dessa forma.
I don't see it that way.
I don't see it that way. I'm not really sure.
Não tenho muita certeza.
I'm not really sure.
I'm not really sure. That's one way to look at it.
Essa é uma forma de ver isso.
That's one way to look at it.
That's one way to look at it. I'm leaning more toward yes.
Estou mais inclinado a dizer sim.
I'm leaning more toward yes.
I'm leaning more toward yes. You make a strong point.
Você tem argumento forte.
You make a strong point.
You make a strong point. That's just how I feel.
É só como eu me sinto.
That's just how I feel.
That's just how I feel. I see no problem with it.
Não vejo problema nisso.
I see no problem with it.
I see no problem with it. I'm afraid I disagree.
Receio que discordo.
I'm afraid I disagree.
I'm afraid I disagree. I think it's possible.
Acho que é possível.
I think it's possible.
I think it's possible. I don't share that opinion.
Não compartilho essa opinião.
I don't share that opinion.
I don't share that opinion. Sounds reasonable to me.
Parece razoável para mim.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Sounds reasonable to me. I'm not entirely sure.
Não tenho total certeza.
I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not entirely sure. I can't say I agree.
Não posso dizer que concordo.
I can't say I agree.
I can't say I agree. It's just my take on it.
É só minha visão disso.
It's just my take on it.
It's just my take on it. I have to disagree.
Tenho que discordar.
I have to disagree.
I have to disagree. You're probably right.
Você provavelmente está certo.
You're probably right.
You're probably right. I doubt that.
Duvido disso.
I doubt that.
I doubt that. I don't think that's true.
Acho que isso não é verdade.
I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true. That's not quite right.
Isso não está exatamente certo.
That's not quite right.
That's not quite right. I tend to agree.
Costumo concordar.
I tend to agree.
I tend to agree. I might agree with that.
Posso concordar com isso.
I might agree with that.
I might agree with that. That's not my view.
Essa não é a minha visão.
That's not my view.
That's not my view. I don't think you're right.
Acho que você não está certo.
I don't think you're right.
I don't think you're right. That's definitely true.
Isso é definitivamente verdade.
That's definitely true.
That's definitely true. I completely see your point.
Vejo completamente seu ponto.
I completely see your point.
I completely see your point. I beg to differ.
Permita-me discordar.
I beg to differ.
I beg to differ. It's hard to say.
É difícil dizer.
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say. You're wrong about that.
Você está errado sobre isso.
You're wrong about that.
You're wrong about that. I don't really agree.
Eu realmente não concordo.
I don't really agree.
I don't really agree. That's a common opinion.
Essa é uma opinião comum.
That's a common opinion.
That's a common opinion. That's your opinion.
Essa é a sua opinião.
That's your opinion.
That's your opinion. I guess that's one way.
Acho que essa é uma maneira.
I guess that's one way.
I guess that's one way. We don't see eye to eye.
Não estamos em sintonia.
We don't see eye to eye.
We don't see eye to eye. I don't buy that.
Não engulo isso.
I don't buy that.
I don't buy that. Fair enough.
Justo o suficiente.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. It depends on how you see it.
Depende de como você vê.
It depends on how you see it.
It depends on how you see it. I wouldn't say that.
Eu não diria isso.
I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't say that. I can agree with that.
Posso concordar com isso.
I can agree with that.
I can agree with that. I think you're mistaken.
Acho que você está enganado.
I think you're mistaken.
I think you're mistaken. You have a point.
Você tem um ponto.
You have a point.
You have a point. That sounds about right.
Isso parece certo.
That sounds about right.
That sounds about right. I wouldn't agree with that.
Eu não concordaria com isso.
I wouldn't agree with that.
I wouldn't agree with that. That's my opinion too.
Essa também é minha opinião.
That's my opinion too.
That's my opinion too. I think you're spot on.
Acho que você está certo.
I think you're spot on.
I think you're spot on. I don't think that's right.
Não acho que isso esteja certo.
I don't think that's right.
I don't think that's right. Maybe you're right.
Talvez você esteja certo.
Maybe you're right.
Maybe you're right. We have different views.
Temos visões diferentes.
We have different views.
We have different views. I'll go with that.
Eu aceito isso.
I'll go with that.
I'll go with that. That's one perspective.
Essa é uma perspectiva.
That's one perspective.
That's one perspective. I hear you.
Eu entendo você.
I hear you.
I hear you. I wouldn't say so.
Eu não diria isso.
I wouldn't say so.
I wouldn't say so. It's possible, I guess.
É possível, eu acho.
It's possible, I guess.
It's possible, I guess. That's not entirely true.
Isso não é totalmente verdade.
That's not entirely true.
That's not entirely true. I can see why.
Posso ver por quê.
I can see why.
I can see why. I respectfully disagree.
Discordo respeitosamente.
I respectfully disagree.
I respectfully disagree. I'm not sure I agree.
Não tenho certeza se concordo.
I'm not sure I agree.
I'm not sure I agree. That's how many feel.
É como muitos se sentem.
That's how many feel.
That's how many feel. That's how I feel too.
Também me sinto assim.
That's how I feel too.
That's how I feel too. You're looking at it right.
Você está vendo isso corretamente.
You're looking at it right.
You're looking at it right. I feel differently.
Me sinto diferente.
I feel differently.
I feel differently. That's not how it works.
Não é assim que funciona.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works. It's just a thought.
É só pensamento.
It's just a thought.
It's just a thought. I'm leaning toward no.
Estou inclinado a dizer não.
I'm leaning toward no.
I'm leaning toward no. You may be mistaken.
Você pode estar enganado.
You may be mistaken.
You may be mistaken. That's your belief.
Essa é a sua crença.
That's your belief.
That's your belief. That could be true.
Isso pode ser verdade.
That could be true.
That could be true. You're missing the point.
Você está perdendo o ponto.
You're missing the point.
You're missing the point. I believe you're right.
Acredito que você está certo.
I believe you're right.
I believe you're right. I doubt you're right.
Duvido que você esteja certo.
I doubt you're right.
I doubt you're right. I respect that view.
Respeito essa visão.
I respect that view.
I respect that view. It doesn't seem right.
Isso não parece certo.
It doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right. I'm open to that.
Estou aberto a isso.
I'm open to that.
I'm open to that. That's how I view it.
É assim que vejo.
That's how I view it.
That's how I view it. That seems wrong.
Isso parece errado.
That seems wrong.
That seems wrong. That works for me.
Isso funciona para mim.
That works for me.
That works for me. I've never thought that.
Nunca pensei nisso.
I've never thought that.
I've never thought that. That sounds wrong to me.
Isso me parece errado.
That sounds wrong to me.
That sounds wrong to me. I think that's fair.
Acho que isso é justo.
I think that's fair.
I think that's fair. That's your take on it.
Essa é sua opinião.
That's your take on it.
That's your take on it. We see it the same.
Vemos da mesma forma.
We see it the same.
We see it the same. That could work.
Isso pode funcionar.
That could work.
That could work. Not quite sure.
Não tenho muita certeza.
Not quite sure.
Not quite sure. It's hard to believe.
É difícil de acreditar.
It's hard to believe.
It's hard to believe. That's something to consider.
Isso é algo a considerar.
That's something to consider.
That's something to consider. That's not my belief.
Essa não é a minha crença.
That's not my belief.
That's not my belief. I'm fine with that.
Estou bem com isso.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that. You may have a point.
Você pode ter ponto.
You may have a point.
You may have a point. That's not quite it.
Não é bem isso.
That's not quite it.
That's not quite it. That's not my opinion.
Essa não é minha opinião.
That's not my opinion.
That's not my opinion. That's how it seems.
É como parece.
That's how it seems.
That's how it seems. I wouldn't put it that way.
Eu não diria desse jeito.
I wouldn't put it that way.
I wouldn't put it that way. That's not convincing.
Isso não é convincente.
That's not convincing.
That's not convincing. I accept that.
Eu aceito isso.
I accept that.
I accept that. I wouldn't disagree.
Eu não discordaria.
I wouldn't disagree.
I wouldn't disagree. That makes no sense.
Isso não faz sentido.
That makes no sense.
That makes no sense. I'd say the opposite.
Eu diria o contrário.
I'd say the opposite.
I'd say the opposite. I stand by my view.
Mantenho minha visão.
I stand by my view.
I stand by my view. I'm still not sure.
Ainda não tenho certeza.
I'm still not sure.
I'm still not sure. I lean toward agreeing.
Tendo a concordar.
I lean toward agreeing.
I lean toward agreeing. I doubt that's accurate.
Duvido que isso seja preciso.
I doubt that's accurate.
I doubt that's accurate. You may be onto something.
Você pode estar certo.
You may be onto something.
You may be onto something. That's your perspective.
Essa é sua perspectiva.
That's your perspective.
That's your perspective. I don't really see that.
Realmente não vejo isso.
I don't really see that.
I don't really see that. You might not be right.
Você pode não estar certo.
You might not be right.
You might not be right. That may be true.
Isso pode ser verdade.
That may be true.
That may be true. I understand your reasoning.
Entendo seu raciocínio.
I understand your reasoning.
I understand your reasoning. That's your side.
Esse é seu lado.
That's your side.
That's your side. I can respect that.
Posso respeitar isso.
I can respect that.
I can respect that. Let's agree on this.
Vamos concordar nisso.
Let's agree on this.
Let's agree on this. I don't feel that way.
Não me sinto assim.
I don't feel that way.
I don't feel that way. I can't support that.
Não posso apoiar isso.
I can't support that.
I can't support that. I appreciate your opinion.
Agradeço sua opinião.
I appreciate your opinion.
I appreciate your opinion. That doesn't convince me.
Isso não me convence.
That doesn't convince me.
That doesn't convince me. That's an interesting view.
Essa é uma visão interessante.
That's an interesting view.
That's an interesting view. I have no objection.
Não tenho objeções.
I have no objection.
I have no objection. I think you're confused.
Acho que você está confuso.
I think you're confused.
I think you're confused. That could be debated.
Isso pode ser debatido.
That could be debated.
That could be debated. That's what I believe.
É nisso que acredito.
That's what I believe.
That's what I believe. You might think that.
Você pode pensar isso.
You might think that.
You might think that. That's clearly wrong.
Isso está claramente errado.
That's clearly wrong.
That's clearly wrong. That makes me think.
Isso me faz pensar.
That makes me think.
That makes me think. That's not how I see things.
Não é como vejo as coisas.
That's not how I see things.
That's not how I see things. You may be confused.
Você pode estar confuso.
You may be confused.
You may be confused. It's just how I see it.
É só como eu vejo.
It's just how I see it.
It's just how I see it. You could see it that way.
Você poderia ver assim.
You could see it that way.
You could see it that way. That's not a bad idea.
Não é uma má ideia.
That's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea. That might not be true.
Isso pode não ser verdade.
That might not be true.
That might not be true. That sounds true.
Isso soa verdadeiro.
That sounds true.
That sounds true. That's pretty convincing.
Isso é bastante convincente.
That's pretty convincing.
That's pretty convincing. I'm not buying that.
Não estou acreditando nisso.
I'm not buying that.
I'm not buying that. That doesn't add up.
Isso não faz sentido.
That doesn't add up.
That doesn't add up. That's not exactly true.
Isso não é exatamente verdade.
That's not exactly true.
That's not exactly true. We don't agree on that.
Não concordamos nisso.
We don't agree on that.
We don't agree on that. It's a matter of opinion.
É uma questão de opinião.
It's a matter of opinion.
It's a matter of opinion. I can't deny that.
Não posso negar isso.
I can't deny that.
I can't deny that. That's more or less right.
Isso está mais ou menos certo.
That's more or less right.
That's more or less right. I wouldn't say you're wrong.
Eu não diria que você está errado.
I wouldn't say you're wrong.
I wouldn't say you're wrong. That's how it appears.
É assim que parece.
That's how it appears.
That's how it appears. That's probably true.
Isso provavelmente é verdade.
That's probably true.
That's probably true. I might be wrong.
Posso estar errado.
I might be wrong.
I might be wrong. I'm not sure I see that.
Não sei se vejo isso.
I'm not sure I see that.
I'm not sure I see that. I'm not sure that's true.
Não tenho certeza se isso é verdade.
I'm not sure that's true.
I'm not sure that's true. That's one way to see it.
Essa é uma forma de ver.
That's one way to see it.
That's one way to see it. That's not what I meant.
Não foi isso que eu quis dizer.
That's not what I meant.
That's not what I meant. I tend to disagree.
Costumo discordar.
I tend to disagree.
I tend to disagree. That's how many people feel.
É assim que muitas pessoas se sentem.
That's how many people feel.
That's how many people feel. I just don't see it.
Simplesmente não vejo isso.
I just don't see it.
I just don't see it. We have different opinions.
Temos opiniões diferentes.
We have different opinions.
We have different opinions. I respect your point.
Respeito seu ponto.
I respect your point.
I respect your point. That could be one reason.
Essa pode ser uma razão.
That could be one reason.
That could be one reason. It might seem that way.
Pode parecer assim.
It might seem that way.
It might seem that way. That sounds reasonable.
Isso parece razoável.
That sounds reasonable.
That sounds reasonable. I wouldn't be so sure.
Eu não teria tanta certeza.
I wouldn't be so sure.
I wouldn't be so sure. That's your interpretation.
Essa é sua interpretação.
That's your interpretation.
That's your interpretation. We'll have to see.
Teremos que ver.
We'll have to see.
We'll have to see. I don't quite agree.
Não concordo totalmente.
I don't quite agree.
I don't quite agree. That's not how I understand it.
Não é como eu entendo.
That's not how I understand it.
That's not how I understand it. I think we agree on that.
Acho que concordamos nisso.
I think we agree on that.
I think we agree on that. Let me explain my side.
Deixe-me explicar meu lado.
Let me explain my side.
Let me explain my side. I agree with that idea.
Concordo com essa ideia.
I agree with that idea.
I agree with that idea. That's totally fair.
Isso é totalmente justo.
That's totally fair.
That's totally fair. That's just how it is.
É simplesmente assim.
That's just how it is.
That's just how it is. I believe that's wrong.
Acredito que isso esteja errado.
I believe that's wrong.
I believe that's wrong. That's not the case.
Esse não é o caso.
That's not the case.
That's not the case.